So thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, and I will talk about the learnings that we made from the last 15 years working with ballast water management. And well, I will of course do it from a maker's perspective, but I will put it in the context of the interactions that we had with owners. And there's no need to be concerned. I will not talk about the Sleeping Beauty or something like that, but I think looking back, it would be wrong not to look how it all started. And we have seen the pictures. We know the invasive species. We have seen it before, either if it's the zebra mussel or if it's a crab. So this is the threat that IMO identified back in 2004. And they adopted the convention. Later we had US Coast Guard entering the scene in 2012. That somewhat added to the interesting equation of selecting a ballast water treatment system. So in 2004, when IMO first adopted this convention, it created a market, and market emerged for ballast water treatment systems. And it was like bees to honey. A lot of makers started to enter the market. These are just examples of different makers, but I think what the years from 2004 was characterized by was that you had a lot of makers entering the market to a point where you had some 60 IMO-approved systems. And also the years after 2004, I would say each and every year after 2004 was characterized by the expectation of a prompt ratification. We know today that was a very wrong assumption. It took its time until it was ratified. And I think this is something that created the dynamics in the market, because when I started first working with ballast water treatment in 2014, a very common phrase that I heard was that I buy a certificate. If the system has a certificate, it works. Luckily, we have come a long way since then. I'm sure that the system will work, but it doesn't tell you anything about the performance of the system. So what I will talk about in the coming slides is different parameters, incorrect information, maybe old information, that you put into the equation for evaluating which is the best ballast water treatment system for your fleet and for your vessels. So these are just two examples of incorrect information that we face. And of course, if you put incorrect information into the evaluation that you're making, which system to choose, the outcome will be affected accordingly. So one statement that we frequently hear is that there's correlation between high power consumption and biological performance. That is not the case. If you look at the third generation that we have, it has approximately 1/3 of the power consumption as the second generation, but yet the biological performance is better. So there's no correlation. The other example is, and probably coming from the US Coast Guard type-approved certificates, because for UV system, it only mentions the UVI. And the statement that we hear is that UVI is used to evaluate the performance of the system. And that's not correct. It's not possible. So what I highlighted here is different reactor sizes that we have in the product portfolio. And as you can see, there are different UVIs, but the performance is the same. So it has a UVT of 42%. So this is a global business, and the vessels sail all over the world. And you will for sure encounter different parameters in different ports. And these are the three, I would say, main parameters that affect the performance of your system. You have temperature, salinity, and UVI. And different technologies are affected differently by these parameters. But choosing a system, you need to look at your fleet today, but also in the future. So how will the system operate? How will it affect my operational expenditure? As point for the decision. I'll come back to certificate. Certificate is a qualifier. Either you have it or you don't. And there's been a lot of attention to the US Coast Guard Type Approval Certificate, and it's still a lot of attention to US Coast Guard Type Approval Certificate, and for natural reasons. But what does not get that much attention, which is, from my point of view, a very important parameter when you select the system, and that's the revised G8 Type Approval Certificate. As a matter of fact, it's 18 months until you're not allowed to install a ballast water treatment system that is type approved according to the current G8. And if we look, these are container ports, but if we look at the map, US represent 4% as a ticket to trade with the US Coast Guard Type Approval Certificate. But if the ballast water treatment system does not have a revised G8 certificate beyond October, it's 96% of the ports affected. So for me, being such a big question, I don't think it gets enough attention. Evolution. This is also a factor where we have seen in discussion with customers that sometimes they refer back to old generations of the system. And of course, if you put that information into the evaluation of different makers, then again, the outcome is affected accordingly. Because there are developments on the market that will decrease footprint, it will decrease power. So a system that maybe before was disqualified will now fit into the requirements for that specific vessel type. And from our point of view, Pre-Ballast 3 being a mature system, what we do now is that we work with the product portfolio. So we adapt the product portfolio to meet the different requirements of different applications. So that step we're taking now is introducing a new reactor, a 1500 reactor, to replace the configuration where we have 2 times 1000. And again, that's a design optimization where you reduce, again, footprint and power consumption. So that's also very important. And of course, we have our responsibility as makers to make sure that we communicate about these changes. Then we have some topics that pop up, that are options, that they are part of this equation or selection process. But they are more of nice to have or need to have. But that, I think, only each and every one can answer. So training is a very hot topic. That's probably the theme that we get most questions about right now. And probably driven by US Coast Guard and IMO. They made very clear that the crew needs to have the correct training. Connectivity, I'm surprised. I haven't seen that many slides about connectivity here, but this is another new thing to evaluate and to see, will connectivity help me to, for example, with remote troubleshooting, to increase uptime? Will it help me to decrease the operational expenditure by remotely support the system? And this is a very hot topic, especially in this market, I would say. Some vessel types, for different reasons, are not able to install the system inside the vessel. So you need to install it in a deck house. And here I see similarities to how it was before in terms of maturity, technological maturity. I think there's a lot of you don't know what you don't know. So questions are asked and statements are made that are maybe not based on a full understanding of the picture. I think a good starting point is for the evaluation of a deck house or a container, which is also much reference to. It should be on deck, the lifetime of the vessel, in the same environment, and inside you will put the ballast water treatment system that has a minimum and a maximum and a humidity limitations. And that these limitations needs to be met independently if the vessel is up north in -20, or in the Middle East, for example, with 45 degrees outside temperature. So when you come to decision with the deck house, a new question arises. Having installed the system on deck, most probably the ballast pumps are not able to give sufficient pressure. And then there are different solutions. The pure ballast point of view is that the ballast water treatment system should handle its own pressure requirements. The cargo pumping system was designed as it was for a reason. Don't touch it. So the title somewhat indicated I will talk about the past learnings, but I would like to touch upon the future as well. Because an imminent challenge for many makers is that they will increase, either if they double or triple the volumes that they had last year. And that's a challenge in terms of capacity. Capacity of commissioning, technical support, and all other factors, operational, to deliver the systems, the volumes that they need. And they need to do it in such a way that the customer is not suffering. So there's not they get timely answers, they get the information they need. And then you have the other problem going the other way. After the retrofit boom, you will go from the 5,000 systems, vessels per year to 1,500. Then the company needs to have a business model which has allowed them to maintain an organization to support installed base. So the customers get the timely answers, the correct support that they need. So I think this is two critical things looking forward and challenges ahead. So, summarizing. I think it's important to look, when doing this evaluation, on what's the value I need, what's the performance I need. It should be easy to use, because it doesn't matter how good the system is, if it's difficult to use, then there's a risk for non-compliance. And then you have maturity. There's a difference if you have 3,000 systems or 100 systems installed. So to summarize, because I see my time is out, long-term commitment, look for a supplier that is able to support you today, tomorrow, and in 20 years. Thank you.